Okay, we're going to officially get started. So welcome to Expert Connect, and I'm Debbie Barnett, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing Julie Alexander, the co-creator of the online platform I Love Maj. Tonight, Julie is going to share her Maj journey with us. Now, just so you know the format for tonight's show, we are going to be doing Q&A after I interview Julie. And you will be putting your questions in chat, and the same goes for YouTube. And I will do my very best to get to everybody that is watching and asking a question. All right, Julie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're so very welcome. I'm so happy to have you here tonight. And are you ready for me to ask you some fun questions?
I sure am. Fire away.
Great. All right. Well, the first question I want to know, which I'm always so curious about, this is my very first question with everybody I meet, is can you tell us a little bit about how you got into Mahjong?
Okay. All right. Well, my Mahjong journey started about 12 years ago when my husband Philippe and I moved into a new neighborhood in Texas. Everyone there was just extremely welcoming, and I was invited to join the weekly Mahjong group, and I hadn't actually kind of heard of Mahjong before, so I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I was very intrigued to learn more, so I went along, and like so many of us, I absolutely fell in love with the game. And then Tuesdays became the highlight of my week, not only because of my newfound love of Mahjong, but because I had so much fun with the wonderful ladies of the group. There were about 25 of us, so it was quite a large group, and we would host in each other's homes. So that is how I got started with Mahjong.
Oh, I mean, it's just such an addicting game. It's hard
Sure
to
is.
believe that I've been playing as long as I've been playing. But I mean, the first time I sat down at that table to play, I was hooked totally. So I understand.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so do you play on a regular basis?
Well, as I said, I absolutely love playing, but these days life's pretty busy. So I play more online these days than in person, to be honest. I'm definitely very lucky that my husband enjoys playing. And so we do squeeze in a few games together every day. And whenever we can, we do play in person with friends. And but it's definitely not as often as we would like, really, the in-person stuff. So it's more often playing online.
Yeah, I think I play more online as well these days, although I really do love the in-person experience. So
It's just more convenient. You can squeeze games in.
exactly, as many as you want. Nobody has to know, and nobody's going to accuse you of having to go to, some kind of a recovery group.
Exactly.
Sometimes I almost feel like I have to.
So funny.
Oh my goodness. Oh geez. All right. So
An
now
addiction.
you are the co-creator. You and your husband have
Yes.
created I Love Maj.
Yep.
And I know from personal experience in creating an online platform, the time, the commitment, and the resources that are required. Can you tell us about the birth of I Love Maj and what inspired your journey?
I mean, you're absolutely right, Debbie. I mean, creating a platform like I Love Maj is a huge undertaking, as I'm sure that you discovered personally when you developed your online teaching platform. And it's quite funny in that we never actually set out to build an online Mahjong game. In fact, quite a few years ago now, I actually jokingly said to Philippe, let's build our own game. And his response was along the lines of, absolutely no way. Probably slightly stronger words than that, but that was the gist.
Like you left out a word, no blanking way, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he totally knew how much was involved in building that kind of platform from scratch. And frankly, we just didn't have the time. So in fact, I Love Marge didn't actually start as an online game at all. As I said earlier, I used to play with a large group of ladies in Texas. And as you can probably imagine, with 25 plus members, it was pretty hard kind of organizing the group. Just sending emails and text just wasn't really going to cut it. So I recruited Philippe to work on a solution. So he developed an online tool that would streamline the whole hosting process. So it automatically sent out invitations for each game, tracked the RSVPs, calculated all the items that we needed, all the card tables, the number of chairs and Mah Jongg games, and it kept track of who had agreed to bring each item. And it also randomly assigned players to tables, which actually definitely helps to mix things up because we all kind of gravitate to our friends normally, the people we know the best. So actually mixing things up is great. And this organizational tool just totally revolutionized the whole kind of hosting process. So much so that we kind of like decided to launch it to a wider audience. I mean, we thought that if we're having all these, difficulties organizing this large group, there must be other groups out there that are having the same problems. So that was when the original I Love Marge was born. It wasn't a game, not quite yet, but the hosting tool was very well received, and we added more features to it. So we added things like our learning resources, kind of tutorials, book recommendations, a strategy guide, a teacher's directory, and ways to kind of find local players. And we also added a shop so that people who are new to Mahjong could find all those things that they needed to get started. So we had this great website. We had lots of people using the organizational tools and enjoying all the other content. And then along comes COVID.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And so in-person games just came to a screeching halt. So there wasn't much need for an organizational tool at that point. So with all those COVID lockdowns, Philippe and I suddenly had much more time on our hands, and programming a game kind of now seemed like a fun project. So we decided to give it a go. And that's where it all began.
And that's how it began. Yeah. Well, I can so relate to when you said that, he had some choice words when
Yes.
the suggestion came up, because a girlfriend of mine who's no longer with us, may she rest in peace, kind of put the idea in my head for my online school. And when she did, I said, are you blanket nuts? Like, how in the world? Mahjong has there's so many moving parts to it. How could I possibly create something like that? And she was one of my biggest supporters. And she just said, I'll figure out a way. So
there you go.
That's kind of, I can really, really relate to that, Okay, so there's several different online platforms out there and available to players. Right? All of them are great. I played on most of them myself. What sets I Love Maj apart from the rest?
As you say, there are quite a few online games available nowadays. It's, the whole, online game situation has really changed for Mahjong, and all the developers have done an amazing job. Before we started creating I Love Marge, like you, we played on a lot of these different platforms, and we also read other players' opinions of each of these various platforms on the Mahjong related Facebook groups. And each platform is a little different, and each has its particular strengths and weaknesses. So we actually started to focus on the weaknesses, and those became the basis for I Love Marge. I mean, overall, we didn't want to be a copycat of an existing online game. We wanted to have something that was different, wanted to add value, and they wanted to appeal to a different audience. So there are actually many things that make I Love Marge different from these other games. For starters, we have our integrated video call. We've got 3 levels of intelligent bots. There's also the fact that we're not just a game, but a learning and skill building platform. And we also track completed hands, and other play-related statistics. And finally, our platform is very customizable in regards to the style of the Mahjong set that's being played with and the color themes that you can see on the screen. So all of these are kind of key features of our platform, and I'm sure many of the listeners here today may not be familiar with them. So I'll go into them, each one in turn, in a little more detail, if that's okay. So let's start with the video call. I mean, we all know that Mahjong's a social game, so Philippe and I were really keen to connect players in a way that would be much more like an in-person experience. We wanted members to be able to see and chat to one another. And this was especially true because so many people were being affected by the COVID lockdowns, and we weren't able to play in person. So at the time, none of the other online games offered the ability to see or talk to table mates. So it was definitely something that we wanted to have in in our game, there were some people who were using Zoom and FaceTime to chat with one another, but not everybody is as technologically savvy to actually set that up. So we decided to build that functionality directly into the platform. And it was quite a game changer for so many players who could now feel as though they were playing in the same room as their friends. And for many, it was friends that they hadn't actually seen for months. And for those who don't require the video call, we also included the ability to turn it off. So you can independently switch off either the audio part or the video component, and just play the game without any of that in the background.
Yeah, so if you're having a bad hair day, you
exactly.
turn the video off.
Or if you're in your PJs and you don't quite want to be on video, you can most certainly turn it off.
Yeah.
We got a lot of feedback, and people seem to be, very positive about the integrated video calls. It was nice for them to be able to connect with their friends again, and especially those friends that were living out of state, or even in another country. So it was just a great way to better play and talk and chat at the same time. So the other thing I mentioned was our 3 levels of bots. So when we were building the platform, we realized that there were a wide range of skills in the Mah Jongg community, everything from total beginners to the advanced tournament player. And yet all the online games had only one bot, and some didn't offer bots at all. So it seemed to us that there were many players that were somewhat frustrated in that, they couldn't find a bot that was at their level. It was either too easy or too difficult, and they preferred to play with human players for that reason. And that's why we decided to create 3 different levels. So we have our standard level, which is perfect for the player who's newer to Mah Jongg, or for those players who are just looking for a fun game, nothing too challenging. So I'd say they're somewhat equivalent to the bots that you find on most of the other platforms out there. And then we've got our intermediate bots. And so these, on the other hand, are a little more challenging. They apply a certain amount of strategy and defensive play. And then the next step up is our advanced bots, who apply more advanced strategies, and they play defensively throughout the whole game. So they'll give even the most experienced players a run for their money. And I think, Debbie, you've discovered that.
Can I interrupt you and talk about the next level? I mean, oh yeah, this experienced ones, I'm telling you, Julie, some nights I just want to smash them. I mean, I have to remember they're not real people.
No, they're definitely very challenging. And but that's good. It keeps us on our toes. So if we didn't have that, it'd be too easy. We'd be winning all the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, winning is nice, but winning against a level 3 bot feels great.
I mean, it is unreal how challenging it is some nights. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm just almost there, and then boom, someone else mahjongs before me. I'm like, it keeps you on your toes for sure.
It most certainly does. I mean, what we were looking at when we were building these bots is creating a bot that basically was a challenging but not totally unbeatable partner for any level of player. And the other thing I wanted to add, because we get asked this a fair amount of the time, is that all of our bots are programmed to play totally independently of one another. They make decisions based on information that is public, so the exposures and discards, just like a human player. They don't have any insider knowledge whatsoever. But what I will say is that they're very observant. So they're very excellent at figuring things out based on what's on the table, more so than us mere humans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think the next thing I mentioned, I believe, was the fact that we're a learning and skill building platform and not just a game. And that was really important to us. I mean, we'd heard from a lot of new players who were finding it kind of challenging and frustrating. They wanted tools to help them to learn more easily and to build their skills. And they told us that it was just too scary to be thrust straight into a game on an online platform, and they felt totally out of their depth. And then on the other hand, there's the players who've been playing for years who've never really taken their game to the next level, and this often resulted in kind of missed opportunities, and they get frustrated. And so an example is just like, if I wanted to learn golf, I could just go and hit a few random balls with a club, but I'm really not going to make much progress. It's going to be much better for me to go and get some coaching, do some drills, and really learn the right skills. And it's kind of the same, on our platform. It's like we offer everything to kind of help people along the way, along their Mah Jongg journey. So we wrote tutorials for the beginners, and we wrote, our strategy guides for the more advanced players. We created the exercise room, which has proven really popular and is especially beneficial when the new card comes out. So I've been using it a lot recently, learning the new card. And then we've got our practice mode with the hand suggestions to guide members through the game. The suggestions can be hidden as well, so players kind of can have time at the beginning of the game to consider the possibilities, and then they can reveal what the computer says would be the most successful hands. And also, I guess it's kind of like having training rules, and it also helps players to see hands that they wouldn't otherwise see. So it really helps a player to improve their knowledge of the card and ultimately to win more.
Well,
It was, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I'll let you finish, but I just had a question about the exercise room.
No, I mean, ask away.
Yeah, I just wanted to know a little bit more about what kind of exercises are included in the exercise room.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that maybe after this. So let me just, I'll just finish up on this and then we can move on to that. Okay, so I guess as well as what I've just said, we talked about the stats page. So everybody has like access to this full page of interesting data. They can track their wins, losses, war games, and also show the percentages in a pie chart. So that's kind of a really neat way to kind of see how you're progressing, how many wins you've got compared to losses and war games. We also track things like the average time taken to complete a game and the average time taken to make decisions in the Charleston and also in the game. So these are all on your stats page. So everyone can kind of see like how they're progressing, and maybe it takes like 7 minutes to complete a game and then it's down to 6 and then 5. And so you can really see that you're speeding things up, your decision making as well. And it also gives you the average number of jokers that you're receiving per game. And a lot of people say to us, I don't get enough jokers. The average number of jokers per game works out at 1.6. And I have to say that whenever we've looked at somebody's stats page, when they've said, I don't get enough jokers, they are generally just around that average, give or take a tiny bit. So, all these stats really help members to chart their progress and build their skills. And having that whole list of completed hands is actually really handy as well. The system kind of tracks it all for you, all the hands you've won on I Love Marge, but also gives players the ability to add their in-person wins as well. And these are shown in separate tables, but you can see a combined view. So you can see all together which hands you've completed of the current card or last year's card, etc. And you can do that at a glance very simply. But not only can you see which ones you've completed, but you can see how many times you've completed any particular hand. And that's actually quite useful information because people very quickly begin to realize that they gravitate towards certain sections of the card or even certain hands, and they totally avoid others. So, for instance, they may discover that they've never completed a hand in the 369 section or the addition section of the card. And it's not that they don't necessarily get the tiles toward these hands, but more likely that they're just not recognizing that the hands are even there. So a missed opportunity more than anything. So the player can therefore focus on these kind of weaker areas, maybe head over to the exercise room that we can talk about in a minute, and do kind of some of those make a hand exercises until they kind of really integrate those patterns into their knowledge of the card. And the result obviously is better mastery of the entire card and fewer missed opportunities, and therefore more wins, which is what we all want. So it's another great tool to help a player improve. And then just touching quickly on the customization part, basically, we have a number of tile sets and background colors that people can choose from. So they can basically make the game look however they want it to, just personal preference. So they're probably the main features and the main differences between I Love Marge and other platforms.
Excellent, excellent. All right.
Oh, so do you want me to talk about the exercise room now? Would that be a
I
good time?
would, yes, I would
Yeah.
really love to know more about what the exercises that are available there, because I have gone into a couple of them, but I haven't utilized them all yet.
Okay. All right. Well, we've currently got 4, and we will have more in the future, but 4 for now. Our first one is called Make a Hand. It's a very simple exercise. The player is shown a hand from the card and has to select the tiles to make that particular hand. It's just a great way to familiarize yourself with the card and is perfect for newer players, and also to assist in learning the new card each year when it comes out in April. So that's number 1. The second one is called What Hand Is That? And this exercise is all about your opponent's exposures. So you basically see your opponent's rack, and your task is to identify all the hands that match their exposures. So this is a great way to build defensive skills. It's being able to identify what your opponents could be playing, so that you can make more strategic decisions regarding whether to throw certain tiles, and hopefully avoiding throwing their Mah Jongg tile. So this exercise reinforces a player's knowledge of the hands on the card. And then we have Charleston practice. As we know, the Charleston is a critical part of the game where key decisions can be made. So we created an exercise that focused solely on that part. So the exercise is timed. So you can practice making faster decisions. And at the end of the Charleston, you're shown how many tiles you have towards Mah Jongg. And at that point, you're given the option to try again with exactly the same tiles to see if you can beat your previous score. Our hand suggestions are also available during this exercise for the newer player to the game. And then the final one, which is our newest addition, is called Marshall.
Aha, sounds familiar.
It does. It does. So it's our take on Wordle, but for Mahjong players. So for anyone who's played Wordle, you'll know that you're given several attempts to guess a certain word. So in our version, the computer picks a random hand and removes several tiles, and your task is to complete the chosen hand. Now, this is a great exercise to test your knowledge of the card and to recognize the hand if you can only see parts of it. Now, you have to choose the specific hand that the computer has chosen, because we do have some people say to us, oh yeah, but this works as well in that hand. Well, that's not the hand that the computer chose. So it has to be the specific hand that was chosen that tiles have been removed from. That's why we give you several attempts to guess it.
Excellent, excellent. Now I'm just going to address one person's question because it's about this particular thing. Kim White wanted to know, how do you spell Mahjong?
Oh, Mahjle. So Maj and then LE.
Perfect.
Kind of like Wordle.
Yeah, because there's a lot of questions coming in and we're going to get to them at the end, which is great. But I wanted to get to that because I think I would have forgotten. I would have been like, okay, now what does that mean?
Yeah, and you know what, Debbie, I think just working through these exercises will most definitely help any player to identify their weaknesses in their game and to improve their overall skills. And, you know, the result will be more wins. And more importantly, I think it increases our enjoyment of the game if we've got more mastery of the card.
I 100% agree with you. I think it's great. I recommend it to everybody when I have my skill building on Wednesday nights, which I have on I Love Maj. It's just so easy to do everything on there. And I do attract a lot of newer players. So the exercise room is great for any level when the new card comes out. Let's put it, I mean, really, that's
Definitely
the truth. And I used it a lot because I have to learn the card pretty quickly since I'm teaching people about the card. And it was such a saving grace. It was like the perfect way to do it for me. So I love the exercise room and excited about what might be coming in the future.
Watch this space.
Well, I have another question.
Okay.
What do you believe contributed to your success of I Love Maj?
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I Love Maj was conceived from listening to feedback from players on other online games. So I think listening was key to our success. Sometimes it's very easy to believe that we have all the answers, but more often than not, we'd be wrong. Philippe's seen this over and over during his career in software development, especially before the adoption of iterative development practices. I mean, often experts would design something in a vacuum and it ended up being pretty useless to the end users. And all the effort put into the process was wasted. So it's often a better approach to uncover the problems and frustrations that people face and to address these specifically. The "I wish I could" or the "if only there was a way to do" kind of questions. And many times this approach has taken a product in unexpected directions, but the end result is something that truly matches the needs of the user. So from the very beginning, we listened to the Mah Jongg community and also the feedback of our small group of initial testers, followed by our larger beta testing group, and then our early adopters. And each piece of feedback led to improvements, and we continue to refine the I Love Maj platform even to this day. So over time, we ended up with a product that matches the exact needs of our audience. If we tried to build I Love Maj without listening, I'm pretty sure we would have failed. But another key component to our success is the fact that we do everything that we can to help members to be successful on our platform. As I said earlier, we offer tutorials and how-to videos, those videos that kind of like walk you through kind of how the platform works. A searchable knowledge base we have too, and also our helpful emails and tips that we send out when somebody joins the platform. So more importantly, I think, is the fact that we welcome questions from our members. And we're very responsive to queries. We're fully dedicated at the end of the day to assisting our members and making I Love Maj the best that it can possibly be.
Excellent. Well, and it is just unbelievable how much goes into putting an online platform together, and then what goes on behind the scenes. And that's why I think it's so important for people to hear all about this so they know more about what it takes to not just create it, but also to maintain it and then service the needs of those that are on the platform.
And it's a full-time job.
Yeah, and I, from what I see, you guys do an excellent job. So kudos.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Thank you.
Yeah, and okay, so my next question, I couldn't help but ask this because
okay,
a GP chat today and all the AI that's out there, I really have wanted to know whether the bots on your platform use AI. And I also want to know what your thoughts are on AI in the context of online gaming. So please do share.
All right, so the short answer is no, we don't use AI yet. Our bots are based on what's called heuristics, which means that we coded them to specifically apply certain rules and strategies depending on particular situations that they encounter. These strategies are in line with the recommendations of most advanced teachers of American Mah Jongg. The bots are able to make decisions and apply these strategy rules a lot faster and more reliably than us mere humans. So we're much more likely to miss opportunities as we're unable to kind of compute all the possibilities in a nanosecond like the bots. Wouldn't it be great if we could do that? But AI is a very interesting technology, which it's amazing, which works by training the machine with a large set of data and letting the computer figure out patterns and come up with its own decision rules based on the data set that it was given. Now, it's pretty powerful. An AI can often see things that humans can't in the data, but it's not always perfect. Occasionally it will come up with really silly results. And so it's not always reliable.
Exactly.
But having said that, it's a very promising technology in terms of the future development of online gaming, certainly, and has the potential to be an interesting addition to the American Mah Jongg gaming world. I mean, we're definitely keeping our eye on it. and perhaps we'll have AI bots on I Love Marge at a future date.
Well, that'll be interesting and exciting to
Sure
see.
will.
And I try to think about how what technology is going to look like. I don't want to go too far in the future because it gets a little scary at my age to think about whether I'm even going to be here or not. But yeah, it's amazing, and it's pretty exciting to see what AI brings to the table for online
Definitely.
gaming, for sure. Oh, excellent. Okay. All right. Next question for you, Julie, is
Okay.
I know that running an online gaming platform, it comes with challenges. Okay, many actually, to say the least. Could you share some of the challenges that you face and how have you overcome them?
Okay, I lost you for a minute there.
Okay, do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I know that running an online gaming platform comes with its challenges, and I'm sure many challenges, not just some. Could you share some of the challenges you face and how have you overcome them?
Okay, so initially, the challenge was getting our name out there and encouraging players to give I Love Marge a try. Basically, we had absolutely zero marketing skills and we didn't know anything about Facebook or Instagram in that regard. Nothing. Plus, I know we had a long way to go. Plus, we were a little late to the online Mah Jongg game party, as it were. So it took a while for the information to filter down to players that a new online game had been launched. But now that our game is more established, challenges are related to ensuring that players know exactly what we offer compared to the other platforms, so they can decide whether we're a good fit for them. I mean, often we've found that players get comfortable on a certain platform and they find the idea of transitioning to a new one quite daunting. However, those that do take the time and take the plunge, as it were, usually end up loving all the additional features that I Love Marge has to offer. And I guess probably the main way that we've overcome these issues really comes back to what I mentioned earlier, and that's basically listening. By listening to people's needs, we were able to build a platform that fulfilled a vast majority of these and resulted in hopefully a rewarding experience. And eventually, the word gets out and people start to hear about all the features that we've implemented and decide that it's worth going through that small learning curve of adopting a new platform. I mean, we're aware that many subscribers on our platform also have subscriptions to another platform. As I mentioned earlier, we're all a little different. Plus, many have friends that are on different platforms that they want to continue playing with. There are many of our subscribers that are also subscribing to other online games. And it's fine. We're all a little bit different, and people have friends on different platforms and that they want to continue to play with, and so they toggle between each one. And I'm sure that when they're on I Love Marge, they go to our skill building features and improve their game, their secret weapon to winning more games more often. But anyway, so there are lots of challenges when running an online gaming platform, but a lot of these are technical difficulties, and I'm sure your listeners probably aren't that interested in that.
Yeah, yeah, and I can really relate to that technical difficulty thing. Oh my goodness, just learning, to run live streams and have to operate all these different things and having 3 monitors. And I don't even know if people realize what my office looks like. It literally looks like that studio behind there, which is not a real studio, but it's supposed to be a takeout. Yeah. And, Julie, I honestly have to say that I belong to a couple of online platforms because I have friends that want to play on I Love Maj with me, and I have other friends that play on other platforms. And so I'll go and hop over and play with them on there.
Absolutely.
It is probably one of the most affordable investments that you could make. So it's well worth it to have a couple of them. There's no reason why you have to choose just one.
Absolutely, I agree.
So
they're all different.
They really are, and they all provide us something else. And I encourage people to keep an open mind and always try new things because you just never know until you try.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Now, my next question for you is, I would love you to walk us through a typical player experience on I Love Mosh.
Okay. Our approach is to assist people at every point along their I Love Maj journey. So firstly, we offer a trial period, so players can try out our platform absolutely free. We don't take any credit card details or anything like that at the beginning of the trial. So it's totally free to try the platform, and there's absolutely no obligation to continue after the trial. Obviously, we hope people do, but it's completely their choice. If a member is new to Mah Jongg, we're here to help with tutorials, exercises, hand suggestions, answering questions about any aspect of Mah Jongg. And if a player is new to our platform, we hold their hand every step of the way to make the transition easier. For example, we send tips and advice via email during their free trial period. And we also have those how-to videos that I mentioned earlier and the searchable knowledge base. We provide tooltips within the game itself to identify key features. Also, the I Love Marge platform is quite customizable, as I also mentioned earlier, with the color themes and tile sets. So every player can choose exactly how they'd like to view the platform. But most importantly, we make it clear to people that they can contact us for assistance, whether it's a question regarding the platform's functionality or Mah Jongg itself. And we field heaps of questions every single day, and we pride ourselves with answering them very quickly. So in terms of the game itself, one of our key priorities was to ensure the online experience was as close to an in-person game as possible. This is always going to be challenging, as there are many compromises that need to be made when building software, as you know. However, it did lead us to implement things a little differently compared to some of the other platforms.
Very, very interesting. Excellent. Okay, let me see what else I have to ask you. Let's see, what else can I ask Julie here? Okay. All right, this is a good one. So
Okay.
Since I'm on I Love Maj a lot, and I do a lot of my live streams on Maj, of course,
Yep.
and I play, Brandy and I play at night and try to beat those sophisticated bots. I have noticed that, I noticed that there is a call or ignore button that pops up every time a player has to decide whether or not they want to call the tile. Now, I think I understand why that is, but I'm not so sure that the audience may understand completely why that is. So could you explain the reasons behind that feature?
I sure can. And that's a great question. And it's one we actually get often, especially from those players who are switching over from other platforms. So we're aware that several platforms offer the call ignore option only when the computer knows that the player has what is required in their hand to actually call that discarded tile. So we've always been extremely reluctant to enable that particular feature, mainly due to us being firm believers that Mah Jongg is as much a brain exercise as it is a game. So our aim is to have players make decisions for themselves on each tile, just as they would in a real in-person game. We really dislike the idea that the computer makes some of the decisions for a player. And we believe that kind of leads to lazy play in the end, just kind of waiting for the computer to tell you when to think. If you consider a real game, for instance, a player can't just sit back and wait for someone to tap them on the shoulder and let them know when they can call or a discard. So players have to pay attention to each and every single discarded tile and make split-second decisions as to whether they want to call it or ignore. And there's also another aspect to that, I guess. So on those other platforms, when the computer occasionally pauses to offer that call or ignore option, it gives clues to the other players about the tiles that particular player is holding. So for example, if the game started to pause for someone on every discarded tile, then the other players at the table would have a pretty good idea that that particular player has at least a couple of jokers. And that's not a clue that you'd get in an in-person game. But at the same time, we acknowledge that our way of doing things could slow the game down. especially if players forget to click the ignore button in a timely manner. So we decided to implement what we call the auto ignore timer, and we believe that this offers the best of both worlds. Basically, once a tile has been discarded, a timer will start, and you'll see this timer next to the ignore button, and the tile will automatically be ignored if the player has not reacted within that time frame. So we feel this is pretty close to a live game interaction where players have just a few seconds to call a tile before the next player picks from the wall and racks their tile. And if a player needs a little longer to consider their options, they can hit the pause button. It's basically our built-in kind of hold on a minute feature. They can take all the time they want then to make a decision. The timer can be set at 4 seconds, 6, 8, or 10 seconds. So it doesn't sound very long, but even 4 seconds actually is more than enough time in most circumstances, and probably about in line with the amount of time taken for a player to pick and rack their tile in an in-person game. The auto ignore timer can also be switched off if you prefer to play with no time pressure. So you don't have to have it on. It's just one of those features that you can choose at the beginning of the game. So when it comes to technology, there's always going to be challenges and compromises to be made, but we believe the combination of the call and ignore option, the timer, and the pause feature brings our online game as close as we could possibly make it to an in-person experience. So that was the long answer.
Okay, yeah. So if I understand you right, the way that I Love Maj works with the call or ignore button creates the most in-person experience possible, because it doesn't give any clue like some of the other platforms does to what might be going on the way theirs operates. So it's basically a tile is discarded, and then like if you were in person, someone has to look at the tile, make their decision, and either ignore it or go on. So it really does mimic, I mean, it's the closest thing that you could possibly do, I feel, to an in-person experience. And what's the lowest that you could set the timer for? If you
4 seconds.
4 seconds, okay. And 4
As
seconds.
I say, it sounds like a really, well, it sounds like a really short period of time, but actually in the game, you know, if you know you don't need that tile, you really don't need 4 seconds to move on. So it's longer than you think.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that's excellent. I think that's a great feature, actually, and I'm sure that this is probably new to some of the listeners as well. All right, so I am going to move on to my next question. And in the meantime, I do want to, for anybody that came in late, I just want to let everybody know that we're going to get to your questions as soon as we're done with the interview, and it shouldn't be too much longer. So we had a little bit of technical difficulty, which slowed us up just a bit, but not too much. All right, so my next question, Julie, is you've written some really interesting articles on Mah Jongg statistics. I mean, I just can't believe how you even put it all together. Can you tell us more about them, and why do you choose to write them?
Okay, there's a lot of myths and common wisdom in the Mah Jongg world, and most of it's not necessarily evidence-based. So we wanted to kind of dig into those and use our vast set of data that we've collected from the I Love Maj platform to provide statistics on the game, fact check some common assumptions, and most importantly, kind of provide information and advice that is grounded in data and just not hypothetical conjectures. A number of things that we analysed are based on feedback from our members and questions that we receive. So just questions and things like, is there anything to be gained from doing a second Charleston? How much does the number of jokers that a player have affect the outcome of the game? You know, what hands are most often successful? All these kinds of questions, and you know, we use our data to answer them. And as far as we're aware, you know, this is data that's never been analysed before. So we're in a unique position to answer these types of questions using our data set. But gathering the data, analyze it, and writing the articles has been a tremendous amount of work. But we felt compelled to do it, and we'll continue to do so as our contribution to the Mah Jongg community. And all of our articles are available on our website, ilovemaj.com, under the Learn menu option.
Well, it's just a wonderful addition, and I so appreciate it. And I read these, articles and these statistics that you put together, and I think to myself, how in the world do you do it? How do you do it?
Thanks, Debbie.
Having been, I can't call myself a real writer, but having written a few books, I can appreciate what goes into that, let alone gathering all the data that you have to gather to put it together. And you do an excellent job, really.
Thank you. It's definitely a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a great asset, and I hope people take advantage of looking into those, especially after hearing about it tonight. All right, now, okay, the social aspect of playing Mahjong online. All right, how can you speak to that, and how does it bring people together?
Okay, well, I guess one of our key principles is that we believe Mahjong is as much a social activity as it is a game. So our platform strives to facilitate those social aspects. So members can manage their list of friends. We also provide several ways for them to organize games or to form groups that can organize regular games. Plus, there's the option to search for games online with members that they know and also those that they don't. So we decided to build the video call into the game itself that we talked about earlier. And we believe that seeing and chit-chatting with others is as much a part of the Mahjong experience as the game itself. We didn't want that part to get lost online. So, that really kind of wraps it up, I think.
Yeah, really. Yeah, and COVID. I mean, COVID had a lot to do with online platforms and people getting on and playing Mahjong that really weren't technical at all. So how has that pandemic affected the growth and community of I Love Maj? I'm sure it had. I know it did with my school, because my school was developed a year before COVID, and then it opened, right, 3 months before lockdown. So I'm interested to hear your whole experience.
Oh, I think that those people who only played in person previously discovered that online games are a viable way to get their Mahjong fix, and also a great way to improve their skills. So it's hard to make progress when you're only playing a few games a week with your group. And I think players realize that they could play online as well as in person and really elevate their game. So even when the lockdowns were lifted, many people continued to play online. And I believe that those who do are much better players as a result. And in fact, I think it's fair to say that the general skill level in the community is higher now, thanks to all the various online game options.
Excellent. I had to write a question down that I have
Okay.
that popped in my head. So
okay.
I'll bring that real quickly. If I get a chance to get my question later, because I have a bunch of questions already. This is an afterthought question. Okay, so hopefully I'll remember that to ask that later. Great. All right, so we're almost getting down to the end here with my initial questions, and then we could take questions from the audience. But are there any upcoming features or updates for I Love Maj that you are particularly excited about? Do share.
Well, we're actually working on a lot of things currently. We're soon going to be launching a couple more of the beautiful tile sets from the Mahjong line. So they're going to be available to play in the game very soon. I know some players believe that these sets would be difficult to play with because they're quite different to traditional sets. But they really are not that hard at all. I mean, I switch back and forth between traditional tiles and the modern tile sets. And I personally really enjoy the Mahjong line's colourful designs. And I'm currently obsessed with their ocean set. Which was our most recent introduction to I Love Maj. So there's that part, and then there's the other exciting project that we're currently working on, which is our brand new tournament feature. So we are doing things just a little differently than a traditional in-person tournament. We're going to be taking advantage of technology. So instead of people playing against each other at a specific time, each tournament participant will be playing against our level 3 bots. Now, when people hear that, they are usually slightly taken aback. It's
I'm so great. I'm so grateful that you're actually talking about the tournament feature. I really am, because the concept is just, it's crazy. I love it. I love it.
It is crazy, but it's kind of also genius.
It really is. When you seem to come up, you and Philippe come up with some genius ideas quite often. So I'm not shocked.
I don't know where we come up with them from. I guess we're just a bit weird. Anyway, so I think once people kind of get over that initial shock, they start to recognize the advantages. So firstly, it offers a completely level playing field. So our level 3 bots are fast and challenging players and provide a consistent level of play. So this eliminates all the issues of players being mismatched with their opponents. Everybody plays against the exact same standard of opponent. So that's the first thing. It also eliminates any of the potential internet connectivity issues. You know, when people are playing online against each other, they can occasionally get, you know, that experience of connectivity dropping. And these issues can kind of slow down the whole table. So playing with bots completely eliminates that issue. If a participant were to experience issues with their device, it's only going to affect them, not the rest of the table, not anyone else in the tournament. So that was the second thing. So the third thing I can think of is, I guess, flexible timing. It's often challenging to find a time that works for everybody, especially when several rounds are required. You know, the fact is that bots are always available. Participants can play their games at any time that's convenient to them. For instance, players may be given a time frame to play. So let's say 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on a given day to complete their 4 rounds. That's 16 games. They can complete their games whenever they wish during that time frame. They can take breaks whenever they want. So it provides a totally flexible experience adapted to each player's schedule. And also, while this is happening, there's a live leaderboard. Every participant will be able to view the results as the tournament progresses. So they're going to be totally connected to the event, even though they're not playing with other people. The only missing part is obviously the interaction between players. But in tournaments, people are more focused on the game, and there's very little kind of chatting going on anyway. Plus, all participants will be connected via a Zoom call at the end of the tournament, where the winners will be announced and players can interact at that point. So that's our new tournament feature.
Well, I have to say that this is brilliant, brilliant. I mean, I have experienced other tournaments. I've run them on other platforms, and I am just since you brought up the tournaments, I have to talk about the upcoming tournament that I Love Maj and MajCon are hosting together. I wanted to do one so badly, but I was so concerned with some of the things that you mentioned, the connectivity issues, and I saw that happen. And, people, trying to email in or message on Facebook, and just like, what do? I can't get back in. And it's really a challenge. I mean, for anybody to say that they don't have connectivity issues, even when you're just playing regularly, it's crazy, because I experience it, and I have the best internet in the world here, so I know what it's like. But we're going to be hosting I Love Maj and MajCon, a virtual tournament in honor of Alzheimer's and the longest day. And I am very, very passionate about Alzheimer's. Every time I run an event, I have some fundraising effort for Alzheimer's, and I love to do this longest day virtual tournament. And now that you have come up with this absolutely brilliant way to do it, I am so excited. So for anyone,
can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And I'm anxious to see it all play out, and I think it's going to be awesome. So if anybody's interested in registering, I'm going to be putting the link in the video description after I get this up onto YouTube. It'll be there for you to go ahead and check out. You could also always go to MajCon's Facebook group and click on events, and all the events are there and all the links are there to donate. And after you donate, you'll get an initial email from me just letting you know that you're going to have another email soon in the future with all of the details about how the tournament is going to run.
And plus, we've got amazing prizes.
Oh, yeah, not to mention the amazing prizes. And we're still working on prizes. And I do want to mention that if you can't play in the tournament, for whatever reason, you just have too many commitments on that day, you still can donate and be eligible for prizes. So we have a lot in store. So it's not just playing in the, even if you say, oh, I'm just not comfortable playing in a tournament, okay, donate and you still could be eligible for prizes. But I do want to mention one more thing. This is probably the most perfect way to experience the tournament without the pressure that you would experience the first time playing an in-person tournament. This is, look, the bots are not going to be snarky. They may beat you.
And they can't win the tournament, so they can't win the prizes.
Exactly. That's another great thing. So it's just going to be a lot of fun. And I just hope that I get you guys to donate and participate in it. Be very, very grateful for that. Okay, so my next question, Julie, is how do viewers sign up for I Love Maj? And I understand you have a special offer for anybody watching live or even watching the replay on YouTube.
We do. So I guess if you'd like to take the opportunity to try I Love Maj for free, head over to ilovemaj.com and click on the register link. You'll find it at the top of the page, and we usually offer a 2-week free trial. But if you enter the code DB in the promo box when registering, you'll receive an additional free week. Debbie, perhaps you can add a clickable link in the video description on your YouTube channel?
I sure can, not a problem at all. Yep. I'd be happy to do that. Super.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Well, we're almost at the Q&A, and we're at the 8:30, the bottom of the half hour. I want to say top of the hour, but it's kind of, the bottom of the hour, I should say, for this event. So before we proceed to the Q&A, I just want to mention that Julie and her husband, Philippe, are going to be attending MajCon in October as session leaders, and they have some fun stuff in store for everybody. And alongside Julie and Philippe, we have other session leaders, including Gladys Strad, Stacy Budkowski, and Zach Lovell, all offering really fun interactive workshops. It's not lectures, it's all interactive workshops. So I encourage everyone to consider joining us at MajCon this year, and I'll include the link to purchase tickets in the video description as well. Okay, now I'm going to open the floor up to questions. And as I said earlier, I'm going to do my very best to get to everyone's questions. But if I missed a few, you can always email info@ilovemaj.com. Julie and Philippe are absolutely on top of their emails, and they will get back to you pretty quickly, unless they're sleeping. That's the only time you're not going to hear.
We don't do much of that.
Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead, and if I could remember how to do this, because it's still new to me, but I'm going to turn on full screen for you, Julie, so you could be the focus and
thanks.
And answer the questions. Well, don't get too worried about it. If I mess up and I can't get you on, if I can't get you on full screen, you might have to be.
It's fine.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a look. And of course, my question just popped away, but I'm going to move them in front of me, and I'm going to open up YouTube so I could switch off if anybody in YouTube has questions as well. Okay, Well, we had a hello from the Virgin Islands, and hello, Susan, in the Virgin Islands. All right, so Janet Howe asks, my biggest problem is trying to move a tile and playing it instead. And Julie, I think I do this. I've done this myself more than I want to admit. Any back, in quotes, ability, I'm assuming,
Okay.
like retracting the boo-boo.
Yeah, can't go backwards because you couldn't do that in an in-person game. You can't go, oops, sorry, I need to change that. But I think what's probably happening, I don't know whether this lady is using an iPad potentially, but what we find is if somebody is taking their tile and moving it up and over along their in their hand, that sometimes will discard because they're going up into the discard zone. So it's better to go horizontally and not up and over. So discarding a tile is either moving it into the discard zone or double clicking it. So either of those, when it's your turn, can be somewhat dangerous. So my advice is to those people who have this issue is don't move your tiles when it's your turn, i.e. when the box is around your hand. When it's going around the table, when it's other people's turns, that's when you're safe to move your tiles if you have that problem.
Oh yeah.
That
Oh
makes
my
sense?
goodness. I remember the first time I played, I think I did a live stream, and you watched it back on YouTube,
Oh, I
and
was having a heart attack.
you had a heart attack. You
Nearly.
called me up and you were like, "Oh my God, don't
Don't
do
do that,
that."
Debbie.
Well, okay, so I'm going to admit to you, and I don't know if Phyllis is with us tonight, but Phyllis, who's on every Wednesday night, it just cannot believe how many times I have accidentally discarded one of my tiles that I need, or a joker.
You joggle them around in your rack, and we sit there going, oh gosh, that's going to disappear.
I'm getting better at it. And, I
Yes.
just don't mess around, and I leave my mouse. I don't use an iPad or anything like that, but I leave my mouse off to the side because I also have accidentally clicked instead of call. When I wanted to call, I clicked ignore. But hey, the pains of playing online a little bit, right? Oh,
Absolutely.
okay. All right. Well, that was a good question. So I hope we answered your question there. And I'm going to go ahead and get the next question is, we have a comment from Susan Silverman who says, I love everything in capital letters about this platform.
Oh, that's so
That's
sweet. I love
very
that.
nice. And Barbara Leibovitz says, the platform challenges players. The swapping of jokers seem to be tricky. Any suggestions?
So when you say swapping jokers, again, it's a double click on the joker that you're wanting to claim, but that has to be done during your turn. So double clicking on it at any other time is not going to work. And we do have people doing that and wondering why they're not getting the joker. So it has to be your turn and it has to be a double click. And that should happen automatically.
Okay, so somebody might be trying to do a joker exchange when it's not their turn, and,
Possibly.
and
Now,
that could be the reason that might be difficult, and that would make sense. So we'll see if anybody has an additional response after what you say. We could address it then.
and yeah, if it's a technical problem, I mean, this person can always email us and we'll work with them to kind of like resolve it. So that's something that that lady can do too.
Excellent, excellent. Because on a tablet, it's just a tap, right? Double tap.
A double tap, yeah, or
Double
a double
tap
click if you're using a mouse.
or double
Sometimes with
click.
trackpads, it can be more difficult. So it's often a device related issue,
Yeah.
but we can help.
Yeah, I mean, I do, when I'm working with students on my school platform, one of the things I have as far as requirements is that they have an external mouse, because the trackpads are a challenge when
Yeah.
you're working in online games. Sometimes you just don't get in the right place. So I always encourage somebody to use an external mouse, 100%. Okay. All right, next question. This might have already been answered, but I want to read the whole thing just in case there's something additional. Karen Finkel says, is there a possibility of taking back a tile as soon as you realize you clicked on the wrong tile to discard? So you just addressed that. It would be like you hadn't taken your hand off the tile when placing on the table. Does that make sense? I'm a beginner.
Yeah, I mean, on our platform, once you've discarded something, it's actually on the table. So, I mean, you can take all the time you want to make that decision of which tile you want to discard. So we wouldn't be able to allow someone to take that back, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's really the key that you said. You could take as much time as you want. Nobody's pressuring you to make a decision. So do that rather than discard and make a quick decision and then realize that you didn't mean to do that.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so Stacy Budkowski, who is going to be one of our session leaders at MajCon, is with us tonight. And Stacy is asking, is there a one sheet about the exercise room that teachers can share with students to let them know about all of these features? What a great question.
And yes, there is. So
Woo!
I talked earlier about our knowledge base, which is completely searchable. And I believe that's under the play menu. So play and then knowledge base. And you can search for exercise room and go to the article, and it will give you all the details of every single exercise, how it works, and it shows pictures as well. So it's all there.
Excellent. Okay. Now my dear hubby said he had a question as well. Randy, can you put the question in chat for me and I will get to it so I can read it prior to? That would be greatly appreciated since I have to read the question. So that would be super. And of course,
he's gonna give me a hard one, isn't he?
Probably. All right. Karen Finkel says, will I love Maj? Oh, will I love Maj be creating walls like Mah Jongg Time Epic has?
I know that Mah Jongg Time has the walls around the screen and the tiles disappear as play continues. It's not something that we've thought about doing because we do have a kind of tile counter down in the bottom right of the screen that tells you how many tiles are still in the wall. It also takes up space in that area that we want to use for discards. So it's not something that we've really considered doing.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was a good question. And yeah, I perfect answer for that one. All right, now, Kim, when we were talking about bots and intelligence early, made a comment that I'd like to read.
Okay.
She bets that they will swear. Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness, I would probably so. Okay. And then Kim also said people are amazed when they read your articles, and when they do, they are hooked.
Oh,
that's very, very interesting. Yeah, very nice, very nice. And Kim also asked, have there been or will there be tournaments with all people and no bots?
Maybe in the future. And the problem is with that is that we have no control over the technical issues that members have at their end, like with the connectivity issues, etc., that we spoke about. So that is a slight problem, especially if we are timing the tournament and doing it in kind of an official way, and we don't want those technical issues to impact on people's scores.
Excellent. And while we're on the tournament question, Carol from in YouTube has a question. Do we have to be a member of I Love Maj to be in the tournament?
You have to be, or you have to have a membership. It doesn't have to be a paid membership. So you could be on a free trial So we mentioned earlier about signing up for the 3-week promotional trial with the code DB, or Debbie's going to put the link in underneath the YouTube video. And, you know, if you wait a little bit and then sign up for that, you could certainly take, participate in the tournament without actually having a paid subscription.
Oh, excellent. Okay, good question, Carol. Excellent. And then let's see, Kim has another question here. Would it be possible that only bots may win the tournament?
Well, maybe they would be the winners, but we won't be giving them any prizes. So, you know, they're obviously not going to win the tournament. And I know some people think, and they're probably a little bit find it daunting to play against the level 3 bots. But, you know, when you're in a tournament, it's, you know, often really good players. And the level 3 bots, they're not that scary, really. They just play properly. They play the way we'd all like to play.
Exactly. I know the way we were talking earlier, I think made it sound like, you know, they were, yes, they are. They're strong competitors. We won't deny that, but it's really no different than playing, you know, with experienced players at a tournament. And and as I said earlier, if you haven't been in a tournament, this is just such a great way to play because you're not in front of other people and having to worry about them judging you. The bots don't judge you at all. So that makes it a perfect experience for a first-time tournament player. All right.
Absolutely. And everyone's playing the same bots. So everyone's having, you know, going through the same experience. So, you know, as I said earlier, totally level playing field.
Yes, exactly. And then Kim also asked, what prizes can people win if they aren't in the tournament? Well, we've got to leave some things left for surprise, right? We have to leave, we can't tell you about every little thing, but we're collecting and gathering the prizes. And as it gets closer, we probably will make those announcements when we've got them all finalized.
We will.
Yeah. So that will be coming down the pike. All right, let's see if there's any more here. Let's see. And Kim said she can't wait to meet you guys at MajCon. And okay, and John Davis.
Oh, hi, John.
Has a question. Of course, this question would be John's question. Can you talk about how coding is done? What a perfect question coming from John.
Well, John, if you'd like to come here, we can teach you.
Oh my goodness. Well, there you have an invite, John.
That's quite a long and involved question.
Yeah, or
I'm not quite sure what aspect.
Ask, you can ask ChatGPT, and they can give you that information now too. Oh my goodness.
It's a long and very involved process.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. Coding is something that just makes my head want to explode. Randy has a question.
Okay.
My husband, is there an ability to select, drag, or double click to discard?
No. To discard. Okay, so both are on all the time. You can either drag or double click for a discard. So you don't have to select one or the other. Is he saying that he'd like to be able to turn one off?
That might be, Randy, if you want to clarify in the question, are you asking if there is a way to select one or the other?
He's possibly kind of relating it to the question earlier where somebody was discarding by mistake when they were moving tiles around in their rack. And maybe he's saying, if you could turn that drag feature off, then you wouldn't
accidentally
discard.
Good question.
Kind of interesting.
And that was exactly what he was asking.
All right. Well, it's not something that we currently have, but hey, maybe we'll have it in the future.
Okay, so you're going to write that down then and
I am.
consider it.
I am.
Perfect.
Oh, I've got a huge backlog, Debbie.
Oh,
So
I'm sure
quite
you
sure when that'll
do.
get done.
Yeah, I've got a whole list for you myself. No, I'm just kidding. Although you have implemented some of my requests. Well, one in particular that I'm going to mention. Okay, so let's see. Karen Finkel says, my trial is up tonight and being a guest is your being a guest is very timely. I will be joining because I love your platform and the exercise room.
Oh, that's so
Oh,
nice.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Karen. That's beautiful.
It
Okay,
is.
and I think we have another question on YouTube. Will Karen ask, will all human players at a given level in the tournament receive the same starting hands?
No, we're not doing it like that, but everybody will be playing against the same opponents. So it's, in a way, it's like an in-person tournament. Like you'd be sitting at separate tables, you'd all have different tiles and different hands, but your opponents are all going to be the same, i.e. the level 3 bots, rather than different people. So everybody will be playing different tiles. They'll be dealt different tiles, but they'll still be playing against the same level of opponent.
Okay, I think that answers,
I hope so.
I think that answers all the questions. And if we did not address your question exactly, please go ahead and feel free to add another comment. But right now it looks like we have gotten to all of them. And I did want to mention something about I Love Maj. And I'm not sure that anybody would even notice this, but because I'm a teacher and I'm passionate about the National Mahjong League rules, I always have a lot of questions about these online platforms and why things are done the way they are. But I don't know if anybody realizes that I Love Maj is the only platform out there that actually names the discards with the proper naming conventions that we do here in America. So a red dragon, which you will hear on most of the platforms, at least I think they're all still doing it, is not a red dragon, it's a red. And I appreciate that. For instance, a one crack is not a character, it's a one crack. I mean, yeah, in other versions, but to me, it just always seems awkward to play the game when it is not mimicking the rules and what I'm teaching and what people are learning. I think it could be very confusing. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I think it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, pretty awesome. All right, now, last chance to get in any more questions before we start wrapping this up here. And I think we're actually just about done. So let me just make sure one more thing. Carol just says, thank you so much. This was very informative. I'm going to give it a go, but not tonight, but soon.
Hope you enjoy it.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all. All right. Now, as a reminder, don't forget to sign up for the virtual tournament. I'm going to have the link in the description, or you could find it on the MajCon Facebook group in the events. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on Expert Connect. And Julie, thank you so much for sharing your Mahjong journey and discussing the unique aspects of I Love Maj and providing valuable insight into the world of online gaming. Really, it was just fabulous to have you here, and I so appreciate you coming.
Thank you for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, great. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodnight to everybody, and it's been a pleasure. And wow, we went over a little bit, but that's okay.
We did.
Yeah, we had
It was
a
fun.
lot to talk about. And good night, Julie. Good night, everybody. Everybody stay safe. Play a lot of Mahjong. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.